Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and this is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And for anyone who's watching us live, happy Captain Picard Day.
Yeah, happy Captain Picard's Day.
And
one of the most important days in Starfleet.
Absolutely. If you're listening on the podcast, though, we hope you had a nice Captain Picard Day about a week ago. And we're going to jump straight into the Trek news this episode because there's a fair bit this week. We've been not a right lot coming through, but the big announcement is that we were talking, weren't we? It's weird. Like we were talking about, in the old days, you used to know who all the characters were going to be before the show came out. And now it's all about the mystery and we don't get that. But they've made us into liars because we've had a full cast announcement for Prodigy, which includes some character descriptions. So we're going to... There's not a load, I don't think it's going to spoil the show, what they've given us already. But we do know a lot better now who some of the characters are going to be, and we can put faces or names to the digital faces, I suppose, a little bit now.
Yeah, and they give us a couple of screenshots as well, which we're going to show you. And the artwork just looks beautiful. If it's all going to be like this.
So we'll run through the characters first of all then. So the first one that they announced is the character's called Rock Tack. And as the name probably suggests, this is the one who looks like a big rock person. And I want to take a bit of credit for this. I think I called this. I said that I hoped it was a Picard, which is the species that Zach Kebron is from the New Frontier novels. And they've said that this is a Picard character. So I'm really excited about that because it's taking something out of the non-canonical works and making it canonical. And
it's nice that they're recognising the whole Trek universe.
Exactly, and it gives me just that little sliver of hope that we might get some of the New Frontier characters in some... way, shape or form at some point. But this is the character's 8 years old, so it's an 8-year-old Picard female. Described as really shy, which the Picards are sort of, or Zach Kebron, the only character we really know from the novels, is very standoffish, but not necessarily shy. But one of the things is and spoilers for the New Frontier novels, but he goes through like the Picard version of puberty and like sheds some of his rocks, and he ends up being right out. And
the sort of I read about this, and they're like thinking because she's an 8-year-old girl that there's every possibility that we'll see this on screen. Yeah,
exactly. Well, Zach Kebron didn't do it until he was a lot older, so I don't know quite how the life cycle of the Picards work, but. I'm just really glad that we're seeing that species included properly. So very excited about that. Apparently this is an animal lover as well, this character. That's the only other ticket they've given us. Next up, we've got Dal, which for anyone who is not watching on the live stream, this is the sort of purple-looking guy with the punky haircut and the big long ponytail down the back. And... this one, they've not told us what the species is, just that it's not a species we already know, and it's a 17-year-old
So I'm going to assume
character.
he's from the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah, I think we have to assume that if we don't already know the species, they're probably from the Delta Quadrant. So, described as a bit of a hopeful maverick, this character, so maybe this is going to be like a bit of your Han Solo sort of archetype. We're going to get a little bit of that. The adventure-loving, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing
all
wrong
speculation,
with that.
But No, absolutely. Then we've got Zero, who's the robot guy, and we
Well,
found
it isn't
out
a
that
robot.
we talked about this earlier on. No, that's it. With it, we talked about how they'd already said that there was going to be some sort of link to the original series, a species in there. And this is what we're getting. Zero is a Medusan from Is There in Truth No Beauty? So I think that's given us an episode that we need to cover before Prodigy lands now as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll
definitely.
make sure we straight back at that episode before we get there. Then we've got, this is probably the most mysterious one, Murph, who's the big blobby thing. And that's about all we know, really.
Yeah,
Other than
like
that
I hope it's not a rip-off of the blob from what do you call it? I can't remember its name. The sci-fi that's ripping off Next Gen.
Well, there's the Blob. You're not thinking of that one.
No, the series.
Oh, the Orville.
The Orville, that's it. Yeah, I hope it's not like a rip-off of the Orville's blob.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I've still never really watched the Orville. I've only seen a couple. But yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's voiced by the guy who does the voice for all the clone, like Captain Rex and whatnot in the Clone Wars. So
yeah,
quite
does all the clone troopers.
Well, yeah. So we've got to assume that this blob is going to talk a fair bit. Presumably, they've not just got him just to make noises, but
yeah,
you never know.
Think you get a prolific I'm busy watching The Bad Batch, and they're saying it's amazing seeing him in the studio again, having conversations with himself, switching voices.
Yeah.
So he obviously likes to talk.
Yeah, but having said that, yeah, I mean, Marvel did get Vin Diesel just to say "I am Groot" over and over, so you never know.
Yeah.
It could just be a weird voice cameo, but hopefully he'll have a bit more to him than that. This one, I think I said this at the time. Could this be a Tellarite? And we found out that it is. This is Jankum Pog, who's described as a 16-year-old male Tellarite, likes to argue, but plays devil's advocate. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work, but no doubt we'll find out. So that's another alpha species. So we've got the Medusans. We presume that the Picard is Alpha Quadrant if it's sticking to the same lore as we got in New Frontier.
Yeah, I think if it's come from a New Frontiers, we've got to say that it's an Alpha Quadrant species.
Yeah, so that's 3 we've got at least from the Alpha Quadrant. And then finally, we've got Gwyn, which is the tall, sort of slender character. Some people speculated this was going to be the same species as Jayla from Star Trek Beyond, but it doesn't look that way now. We're told this is a new species called the Vaun-Akat, and she's been raised on a mining planet, dreams of exploring the stars, and she's 17 as well. So
no, she's 30.
30? I thought it said 17 on the thing.
No, there's another one. I was reading an article on her, and there's speculation, like she's 30 and she's passing herself off as being a Starfleet ensign who was looking for the ship that they found.
Okay.
And they're sort of thinking, like, is she going to be sort of like a baddie inside, sort of a double...
Ooh,
sort of the think she's a goodie, but she could be sort of a baddie inside.
But...
So...
No, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we still maybe August. It's meant to be out, so I would expect an announcement soon. Then we also got a few screenshots. So maybe this is Gwyn, but heavily in a miner's outfit, or is it the Picard character?
I think that's the Picard. And like when you look at the artwork, if this is the artwork of how the show is going to look.
It's going to be in motion.
It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and then there is a shot of Gwyn looking very sort of thoughtful and staring out presumably into space. I don't think we can derive a lot of the plot from it. Likewise, we've got a shot of Dal as well, but looks like he's
a bit worried.
Yeah, maybe hiding in a Jeffrey's tube or something.
Yeah, they think this could be sort of like, we've heard that it opens with them escaping, haven't we, from a mine?
Right, so yeah, it could be that.
This is Dal again, and it looks like he's looking out of a view screen, so is this the view screen on the view screen of the ship that they find?
Whatever ship it is, it could well be, yeah. But we'll have to wait and find out. But yeah,
it's very strange that it's supposedly way off in the Delta Quadrant, but we've got 3 Alpha Quadrant species have been kidnapped there.
And we know we've got a Federation ship because we've got a Janeway hologram on it. So
yeah.
Now I think. Though we didn't plan it like this, we might have a little clue in the first episode we're going to look at, and we'll get to that. So we're looking at Lifeline from Voyager, which is another Barclay Doctor episode. And there is a little hint in this one as to possibly what's going on, but we'll get there as we go through. Now, you were talking about how Prodigy, the sort of artwork and everything's looking really good. This space station at the start of Lifeline is absolutely stunning. And as far as I can tell, this is new for this episode.
I think it's a physical model, this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wish I haven't done a screenshot of this space station, but I think this is 6 Galaxy class saucers.
Right.
Stacked in 2 stacks of 3 with some bits put on them.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure, but when I look at it, I can see. Oh, that looks like a Galaxy class saucer.
So you think
is
this
that
is
3 Galaxy class? I think it's a bit of a kit bash.
Well, it's a really good one if it is, because I thought this was a stunning opening shot to the episode.
Oh, it's a great model, but I think it's definitely, we're still in the time of physical models here.
Right, I assumed it was CG. I'm going to have to go back and look. Now that you've told me about it being saucers, I bet I'll notice it.
Yeah, like a lot of Voyager was still, it wasn't until Enterprise that started using CGI all the time.
Yeah, not all the time, no, you're right.
Yeah, Voyager was all models still. It was only actually the opening titles normally where they used that were done CGI.
Yeah. So, Dr. Zimmerman then. We've not seen Dr. Zimmerman since Dr. Bashir, I presume, in DS9. And we find out that he's dying. Presumably, he must be dying of rapid aging because this is only 3 years in universe since we've last seen him.
Yeah.
Which I don't get, because in Dr. Bashir, I presume it's just Robert Picardo. He looks exactly like he does the Doctor. And then that's in DS9 Season 5, which ran roughly parallel to Voyager Season 3. So this is 3 years further down the line. Yeah,
well, it does say at one point he hadn't left this Jupiter station for 4 years, so we can say that he got back from DS9 4 years ago.
Yeah, he was
but still even so,
still hurting from his rejection from Lita in that episode. I suppose someone packed you in to marry Rom, you probably would take it quite hard. But in fact, again, for people watching on the stream, we've got a picture of them side by side. So there's the Doctor, Robert Picardo, how he looks now, and he's not aged badly in 3 years, but Dr. Zimmerman has. I wonder if they did it just so they look different in the episode, or it just seems weird.
I think that's probably it. That they've done it. They've done it so it looks different in the episode, and
yeah, he's
also maybe trying to play that he is ill. He's got a degenerative disease, hasn't he? So
yeah, like I was listening out for the rest of the episode. Like, are they going to say this is an aging disease or something? I thought maybe I'll give them benefit of the doubt, but they don't seem to get there. So there's a really cool special effect again where like they send the transmission and it shows Voyager picking it up, and it's cool. It's a really cool thing where it sort of follows the antenna and it's like it's going out in space and everything. Again, it's weird because this is like there's about 2 episodes left this season, and this is where they're usually saving money for the finale, but it actually looks like they've spent a fair bit on this one, especially when you consider we've got Dwight Schultz back, we get Marina Sirtis later on in the episode, we're doing a lot of fancy effects and stuff. So yeah, it's weird that at this stage in the season we seem to be spending.
Maybe they'd save too much money.
Maybe so. Yeah, they need to do it to like balance the books.
And maybe they had more money than they thought.
Yeah. So this carries on what we sort of found out in Pathfinder. So now they get to the stage where they're going to be able to relay messages, and they're going to be able to do it once a month and everything. And the Doctor obviously finds out that Zimmerman's ill, and this is the sort of motivation of the episode, is he wants to... At first, it's like, I want to just have a look at it and give a second opinion. But then it's all about, like...
it's very it's very similar to what I trekked with the phage and...
Yeah, exactly. And that's good plotting, because it's like, right, what has the Doctor done that no one in the Alpha Quadrant would have been able to do? And we've got this species that he's dealt with that have made miraculous advancements in medicine. So it's a believable plot device. It's not just a case of I'm the only person who can save him because I am. There's actually a reason for it.
They have gone
sense within it and everything.
Yeah, it does seem odd that Dr. Zimmerman has a disease that no one has ever come across anything like it before. So it's a bit odd that he's managed to be the only person to pick up, but I suppose there has to be something there.
But again, you need him to have something that it can't be a case of any old doctor can go. We need to get the Doctor over there. But yeah, I take your point. And the idea comes about then we're going to send the Doctor back. And we do get all this stuff about he kind of thinks of Zimmerman as a father. And because he's his designer, it's almost like what you get with Data and Dr. Soong. That kind of thing. Which is...
which I can see why he would, because he has been developing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he will see Zimmerman as, well, this is part of his real family. Not his made-up hologram one with his hologram kids that get killed because of how the program's written.
That's a weird one, isn't it? And he gets over it pretty fast as well. But we'll have to do that one at some point. There's a good bit where Seven of Nine's removing all his programs and stuff, and it's like, you've took my singing away. And,
he's busy singing, isn't he, at the time? And it's only...
Yeah, and she lists all the other things she's removing. It's like, I'm going to take away your sexual programs. Like, what's he been up to? I suppose if he's had a family on the holodeck, that's probably where that's...
Plus he had that... Plus he had his Vidian bit, didn't he?
He did have his Vidian friend, yeah, that's true. That's quite a funny sequence and everything. And then when he arrives at Earth, obviously, Dr. Zimmerman's still fairly cantankerous, like we knew him in Deep Space Nine. He's not really impressed.
Well, it seems even more cantankerous now.
Yeah. And we start to find out reasons for it. Is all to do with what they did with the Mark 1 EMH. And throughout the course of the episode, we basically find out that they're kind of like Crichton from Red Dwarf now. They're like scrubbing toilets or something, or scrubbing
plasma conduits.
Yeah. So, and he's annoyed because they all look like him, and this is what they're doing. I like the Doctor's sort of opening volley of questions, like, have you ever had sex with a Boolean? And Zimmerman's response is, oh, these are just standard questions that everybody asks, and it, like, okay, so what's the deal with Booleans then? There's obviously some really dodgy Boolean going round if it's one of the first questions. And we meet Leonard the iguana. Now, that is a big, bloody iguana. And obviously...
Yeah, it just copies random phrases and words.
It's sort of like a parrot iguana. But it's called Leonard. Do you reckon that's named after McCoy?
Possibly.
Or in the real world named after Leonard Nimoy, but...
No, I think Leonard McCoy, because he's a doctor.
I'd guess that, yeah. But yeah, you know, I'm all happy with a big parroting iguana. That's it. Adds a bit of flavour to the episode. And of course, later on he has his fly as well, which is like a spy drone.
Yeah. Now that's quite a neat idea, is that?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm surprised that sort of stuff doesn't exist yet, and if it doesn't yet, it will. You know, we can't be that far away from something like that.
So that small.
Exactly, and it ends up, there's a punchline to it, obviously, where the Doctor swats it.
But it's only a hologram, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I didn't get, because Barclay acts like, oh, I can't believe you've broken his special prototype fly, and it's like, well, just turn it back on again then, it can't be. Unless it's like Rimmer and it's got a little light bee in it, and if you destroy the light bee, but...
Strange.
Or if he's destroyed its mobile emitter or something, it don't,
Yeah. Well, it's only the Doctor has a mobile emitter.
Yeah, the joke doesn't quite land, does it? 'Cause if you go to it doesn't make sense if it's a hologram. Then we get a weird, very, very, very brief subplot in this episode where Janeway and Chakotay have a chat. Like, Janeway gets a message from the Admiral. And this is where I think we've got maybe a hint of where Prodigy's going to come from, because he says, we've dispatched 2 deep space ships that could get to you within 5 years.
Yeah.
But then, if he's done that, it'd be like, we've dispatched 2 deep space ships which could get to you in 5 years, and we've put a baby Brickar and a baby Medusa and a baby...
not necessarily, because... the Galaxy class is like should be a deep space explorer because it has the space for families when you know that you're going off for years and years.
Could be.
So it could be a Galaxy class that we're going to get.
So maybe we can wangle that. So it's 5 years after. That's more or less bringing us to where Prodigy's set. So if it's one of these ships potentially, or, you know, what this is doing, it's giving us a precedent to say there could be other Federation ships that are near enough.
Ships in the Delta.
Yeah, so that they've gotten out there for if Prodigy debuts its first episode and the internet's up in arms saying this is ridiculous, why is there any Federation ships there? We can be the annoying people who go, well, actually, if you check out the episode Lifeline, the Admiral...
Lifelines, Admiral Hayes says.
Yeah, exactly. But the follow-up to this is Chakotay and Janeway have a chat about the Maquis. She says, oh, he's asked me how the Maquis are getting on, and I don't think of you like that. But Chakotay says, well, you may have forgotten, but we haven't. You totally have, Chakotay. You'd forgotten about the Maquis side of it by episode 2, mate. So don't even do that. You've never seen anyone in your life happier to get back in a Starfleet uniform than Chakotay was.
Like I can understand here Starfleet asking about this.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
I don't know.
It's sort of like, it's the problems on the crew because you've got Marquis and Starfleet.
Yeah,
they won't know how. They won't know that as soon as Janeway waved them a Starfleet uniform, they were only too happy to get back in it.
The other thing is, technically, these are still wanted fugitives. You know.
Yeah.
I imagine that, given the fact. So obviously we never find this out because, you know, famously Voyager ends more or less the second they get back to the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
So we never do find out, but the Maquis got wiped out by the Dominion. So they're not an active threat. So that probably makes it a little bit easier. And the ones that come back with Voyager have put in 7 years good service on Voyager. So
yeah, but like...
they'll let them off.
We know that they're active Marquis, so have they before this actually committed acts of terrorism that they'd still have to stand trial for?
More than likely. I mean, Chakotay, it's implied, is one of the big sort of movers and shakers in the Maquis. So yeah, I would imagine that they will get pardons when they get back because of 7 years of service.
I think they'd get pardons, but it is an interesting thing because you can see Starfleet's point of view on it. Is it causing problems amongst your crew? And
it's and
like Janeway's answer to him on the next transmission has to be, the Maquis we no longer have a Maquis crew. We are a Starfleet crew. And they've all work as a Starfleet crew, and there's nothing about the Maquis left with them.
Which is very much the way it's been played for pretty much all of Voyager's run. But yeah, there are some interesting questions there, and it's interesting that they raise it within this episode. But, you know, as with so many things in Voyager, spoiler alert, this doesn't really go anywhere. This is...
No.
we don't even...
It's Aston, this is it.
Yeah, we don't even get another scene following this up in the episode. Like, you would expect there to be a scene where Janeway says something like, I've made my mind up what I'm going to tell the Admiral, and as far as I'm concerned, you're my crew, and, you know, something like that. But no, it's like we've got 2 minutes that we need to fill, so let's have a scene where they talk about that. But back with Zimmerman then, the Doctor is now disguising himself as a sexy alien masseuse and giving him You know, they were telling him a lot back in season 1, you need to improve your bedside manner, so maybe he's just took it a bit too far with this. Zimmerman seems to be enjoying it until he realises what's going on.
Well, until he notices that he's scanning him.
Yeah. And then Councillor Troy turns up. So you seem to get a 2-for-1 deal on Dwight Schultz and Marina Sirtis.
Yeah.
It seems to be. I mean, they're a good pairing, and it's always good to see her. But you have that sort of little scene where they pay lip service to it earlier on, like, oh, I'll have to ask Captain Picard. He's
if
2 weeks off to come and see Barclay. If you're Riker, you'd be getting a little bit right. That's twice this year, Deanna, that you've taken a few days
off to see Barclay.
Go and see Barclay. What's going on here? Oh, he's on a space station now, is he? We're back on Earth before. This is all a bit... Of course, we know that Deanna would never do such a thing, but Riker's a jealous kind of guy, so... You know, maybe. I don't know. There's quite a touching bit where Zimmerman's making his will, and it looks like he's pretty much leaving everything to Barclay.
Yeah, like, we've talked about this previously, haven't we? We've been trying to fit in.
Yeah.
When was Barclay stationed on Jupiter? Was Barclay on Jupiter Station? And nothing fits in. No, and yet here again, they're making out as if he spent a long time with Dr. Zimmerman.
This would fit in if we hadn't if this had have been the first time we'd seen Barclay since Projections. we'd have gone, oh, okay, we knew Barclay were working for Zimmerman. This all makes sense, but we've not. We've had Pathfinder in the middle.
Yeah.
And so it just, this is
Yeah,
like...
If Barclay hadn't been part of Pathfinder, it would work.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's very...
But even then, I don't get how he was there. Like, we've gone over it all the time, haven't we?
Yeah.
That the time when the Doctor came online doesn't work for Barclay to be there at the same time.
No, but yeah, you're right. This doesn't quite work either. What they need to do is, like, we've had Kirk's autobiography, Picard's autobiography, Janeway's. We need Barclay's so that he can fill us in on exactly what he were doing. Maybe it's like we've got a bit of a Thomas Riker situation. Maybe there's two Barclays, and that would explain what's actually going on, because he does seem to be in two places at once.
Yeah.
The Doctor then, mysteriously, his program starts to break down. And this leads to... I actually really like this as a dramatic conceit, is that you get them to repair each other. So Zimmerman comes out of his sort of slump because he's got something to work on and he's got to try and fix the Doctor. And while he's doing that, the Doctor gets to try and fix Zimmerman. So
yeah,
I do like the setup of all of that. And I enjoy that, like, Zimmerman deactivates the Doctor because he's getting on his nerves while he's trying to help him. And changes the greeting protocol as well. So you get this sense that he's sort of taking out his frustrations. Like, it's kind of like Zack Snyder and his Snyder Cut. You know, it's like he's had a few years after, he's seen what all the complaints are about the EMH Mark 1. And now he's like, right, well... They've took all the other ones off me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to improve that. I'm going to improve this. And it comes to this idea, and he uses the example of Haley, the hologram that he's got, where, you know, if you care about her, you must think of her as being more real. So, you know, you need to think of me like that as well. So you can't just mess about with my programming and everything. And of course, it all turns out that Barclay and Troy set it all up, which is good counselling from Troy. And this continues, like we talked about it obviously a lot when we watched Nepenthe from Picard. But Troy is so much of a better counsellor when she's not in the next gen. Like, at first here she don't do great because she basically just says you're both idiots and storms out, which...
Which there were being both idiots.
They were, but it's not necessarily what you want to hear from a counsellor.
No.
But this gambit that she plays of getting them to both kind of help each other does work, so I think she does a good job overall. And obviously Zimmerman's going to recover fully, and Barclay takes a holo photo with the Doctor's camera, which... Yeah, I know a holo camera is different to a normal camera... But I'm sure they won't be that big by the time we get to that point in the future.
And, like, it's the Doctor's holo camera. The Doctor has been transmitted. How has he brought his holo camera? His holo camera isn't a hologram.
That's a very, very good point. Oh,
he hasn't brought an overnight bag with him and all that.
Well, no, because so they had to delete all his extra bits so he could fit through.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, good point. Somebody's not been paying attention in the script editing. But yeah, overall, another good one from another good Barclay episode, another good Voyager episode that breaks away from the format and gives us a bit of a glimpse of the Alpha Quadrant.
Another good hologram episode, and we're looking at holograms because of Janeway in Prodigy.
We are.
So we covered most of the bases there. Yeah, it's a good episode.
Good. It might give us a clue, as I say, if it turns out that these
one of these ships,
5-year ships, or anything to do with it, then we might have. I'd like to pretend we planned it, but we've just been working through the Barclay episodes, so we can't take too much credit.
Yeah, but it could be where it's come from.
Exactly. let's move on then, and we'll look at the Dominion War. So we're up to the Abandoned. So after the huge big events in the Search, DS9 had a couple of weeks off from the Dominion, and we had a few sort of business as usual episodes, but this one kind of throws us back into it. And to me, it feels like DS9's version of iBorg. Like, now that we've established this really dangerous threat, let's do an episode where we isolate one of them and try and get to know them a little bit better. But in typical sort of DS9 fashion, it subverts it maybe a little bit more than we might expect, and we don't get a happy ending. I know we didn't really with iBorg, but this one even less so, I think. And I think part of that is DS9. It's playing on the idea that, at this point, we know you've watched 7 years of TNG. We know how you think this episode is going to go. You think Odo's going to get through to this Jem'Hadar and he's going to realise his own individuality. And the other, and I think it's quite cool that we don't get that. But before we get there, we've got to contend with Jake's B-plot this episode. And we talked a little bit about how there were this thing about him dating a Dabo girl, and we talked about, is it really appropriate given the age and everything?
Well, I actually looked into this, and the retconned Jake's age.
Yeah, I thought they
during
did.
DS9, and initially when it started, he was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And they've retconned it to he's 12 years old because he's 16 here.
Yeah, exactly. So, I noticed that. They've upped his age a bit. And it also helps that Syrup Lofton, between the episode where he first said he were dating a Dabo girl to this episode, has grown about 4 foot. He looks like a man now. So,
quite
as icky.
Yeah, now, I don't know how old Syrup Lofton actually was when they filmed this.
No.
I should have maybe looked. Because was he really small for his age when they started shooting DS9?
Yeah.
Or did he suddenly have a growth spurt and he actually looked a lot older than he was by season 3?
I don't know.
It's because he passed no problem for a 9-year-old in the emissary.
Yeah, it was believable, and this is only 2 years.
Because he does have and you do see it on screen. He does have actual huge growth spurts.
He does, particularly sort of from where we have him in season 2 to this point.
Yeah,
and we get this thing that Marta, the Dabo girl's 20, Jake's 16, so it's. The age gap itself's not a huge thing. 4-year age gap is not, but for a 16-year-old, it is a big age gap. A
16-year-old seeing a 20-year-old is a big deal.
16 to 20 is a huge difference in terms of age. And I get why Sisko's not comfortable with this at all. And don't blame him. But the main setup then is that she's getting invited over to dinner, and we'll get to it when we get to it. But I'm not sure the resolution of that entirely works, and I think this is the last time we see Marta. Like, I think she's mentioned, but it's pretty much mentioned that they break up, so I don't think this is necessarily. I've just looked up Syrup Lofton, so he was born in 78, and DS9 started in 93, so he was 15 when it started, so he was pretty small for his age.
So he was small for his age, yeah.
Yeah, so he's about 17 here, which he actually looks, I think, a bit older than that, but he obviously just did have that growth.
He's suddenly grown a lot and caught up with his actual age.
So the main plot then, Quark's got his dodgy alien frigate captain who, she's been in it a couple of times. She was in earlier on the Homecoming. She brought the earring, Lee Nallis's earring and everything. So it's nice to have a recurring character. And she's selling him some salvage, and it turns out there's a baby in it. And I love how like angry Cisco and like, you bought a child is, which
Yeah,
fair question, Cisco. Fair question.
it is. You bought, and Quark goes, "I didn't know when I bought it." He went, "Isn't there a rule of acquisition to check what you're buying first?"
Yeah, and
And Quark has to admit, yes, there is, and normally I follow it, but I didn't.
yeah, that's it. You see, if he'd have followed the rules, he'd have been fine, and none of this would have happened. I like how I think we've got a picture of it, haven't we? Where Cisco goes into sickbay and sees the baby, and I love how soppy he gets over the baby.
Yeah.
It's just another great bit of acting from Avery Brooks because, we know Cisco's a father, but we've not seen him with a child that young. And he just puts it across brilliantly. It's like, yeah, Cisco was a great dad when he was a little baby.
Yeah.
And all the stuff he says to Dax, like, I love Jake how he is, but I miss the days when he was just a little kid and everything. And you can see I wouldn't be surprised if Cisco's a little bit broody, but, in a couple of years, a freighter captain might come along and, But yeah, I just think it's a great little bit of a performance from him. It's only a very small bit of the episode, but yeah, it's excellent. And then the baby grows up really quickly. We've seen this sort of thing on Star Trek no end of times. Like, the one where Deanna has the baby and that grows to be a kid straight away. Naomi Wildman, obviously. You talk about growth spurts.
Well, Naomi Wildman, we didn't see on screen for a while, and then we saw her at 8.
Yeah, she's kind of like, the British listeners to the podcast will get this, but famously in Coronation Street, I can't remember whose kids it was, but they sent them upstairs, said, go play in your room. And they were about 4, and then when they came down a year later, they were teenagers. And they changed the actors, And stuff like that does happen all the time. So, so where are we? Oh, that's what I was going to say about the makeup on the Jem'Hadar kid. It's really clever how they gradually... Hang on a second, I've just got to shut my door. It's really clever how they gradually add makeup to him. So it's not clear until he's fully grown that he's going to be a Jem'Hadar.
Yeah.
It's clear he's not human.
As he hits a teenager, sort of late teenager, that's when you can tell he's going to be Jem'Hadar, but before that...
Yeah, exactly. So it works as a sort of a shock reveal in the episode, and I love how they film it from the point of view of him running around, and you see everyone's reaction to it, and there's a great Bajoran extra who just looks absolutely terrified and then really angry. He's like, it's a Jem'Hadar, like as if he's going to go for him sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really effective, really, really good, and it works to... You don't get the reveal straight away because we're seeing it through his eyes. We see everyone's reaction to him before we see what he actually is. I mean, the VHS cover of this, when it came out, gave it away a little bit because it was a Jem'Hadar on the front of it, and I imagine that the advertising will have given this away, but within the episode, it's not the episode's fault it's marketed. So within the episode, it's done really, really well. And this is when it's actually quite a bit into the episode before Odo's drawn into it. Like, we barely see Odo at all. We get that little scene where Kira goes to see him, and we find out that since he's come back after meeting the founders, he's moved into his own quarters, and he doesn't use his bucket anymore, and he's got different sort of shapes and things in his room so that he can explore
like a big climbing train.
Yeah, that's awesome. It'd be quite cool if we got to see any of it, but I really like all that as a detail. But that's all we see of him. He's not connected to the main plot of the child until a fair bit into the episode once it's realised until
we have the child running around.
Exactly.
And terrorising everyone because he jumps at Odo.
Yeah, and he jumps through him, which is... It's always good when they actually manage to scrape the money together to do an Odo morphing effect.
Yeah.
And I think this episode it is absolutely necessary because we have to see the Jem'Hadar realise what he is.
Yeah, it's his reaction because, like, this is a baby that's grown up. So this is something that's programmed into him.
Yeah,
of how you react to a changeling.
Exactly, it's really.
And it's literally praying straight away.
Yeah, it's really, really sinister the things we find out about what they're doing in this episode. This is the first episode we find out that they're dependent upon a drug. I mean, we find out later it's called Ketracel White, and Bashir even questions it, like, why would you engineer a species to be dependent upon a drug? And
yeah,
again, hindsight's 20/20 and everything, but how great is it that you get Bashir reacting so strongly to genetic manipulation when we find out 3 years, 4 years later that Bashir himself has been genetically engineered? And it's one of those where I'm willing to bet that there was no thought whatsoever at this point that Bashir would be genetically modified.
Yeah.
But
I think you're right there. It does work.
You watch it again and you go, right, he must be much more interested in this because of that. And it must be, striking a bit of a nerve with him. So that's, again, really good little details that are probably there by good fortune and good design.
But it's like they say, isn't it, with the Jem'Hadar? Why would you create a species that's born dependent on a drug?
Exactly. And
only you can manufacture, and it's for control. If you're the only one who can make this.
And the thing is, there's a cruelty to it, because it's not like if they don't get the drug, they just keel over and die. It's like, no, they're still alive, but they go through withdrawal and they're in pain.
Yeah.
It's
in constant withdrawal.
But again, that's more effective. You have a garrison of Jem'Hadar and they see each other suffering, they're more likely to be deferent to the founders. And the fact as well that they obviously program in language, or at least program in the ability to quickly develop language.
Yeah.
So it's, it shows how powerful the founders are in terms of their technological advancement, but also the ruthlessness in terms of what they do. It's really, really good stuff. Back to Cisco then, sorry. We were talking about in the episode the Jem'Hadar about how his civilian outfits weren't that good. I think they're getting better in this one. Like, it doesn't just look like a Starfleet uniform. It's starting to actually look like something somebody might wear. And I think that gets better again as it goes along. But this is where I'm not 100% on how this all works, because Cisco's really against it. She's an older woman. I don't want to see my son. Oh, she's told me that my son writes poems and he plays Domjot. Oh, well, you can carry on seeing each other then. Like, okay, I'm not quite sure how that works, Cisco. I mean, I'm not quite sure the logic follows. I mean, he does get to know her a bit better, and she's clearly a nice person, so, there's no issue there.
Yeah, and she's not... She's not just a bimbo who spins a Domjot wheel.
No, exactly, and, all that's good, but I don't get how finding out that Jake has more of a life than Cisco knew he had means that all of a sudden he's okay with this much older woman dating him.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's how it resolves, and that's the last we hear of it. I mean, Cisco mentions it to O'Brien later on, and O'Brien's like, whoa, dating a dabo girl, good lad. Which is probably, I'll be honest, if when I was at school, 16, if one of my mates had been dating a 20-year-old who looked like that, you'd be like, good lad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you would.
That's because we're a little bit... We don't think of these things when we're a kid, you know? I mean, remember, we're recording this in England, so if Marta and Jake got up to anything, that would be legal. There's a lot of states in America where this would not be, and Marta could very easily go to jail for... I'm not saying...
Yeah, in England, 16 is the age of consent.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're getting up to anything, but whether they are or not, just Marta needs to check what the local laws are on Bajor and where it all stands in the Federation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, she's Bajoran, so...
She is. So, yeah, Bajor. Yeah. We'll leave it there. Back to Odo and the Jem'Hadar then. So, he goes to stay with Odo. And there's a great conversation where...
Well, I think this is a great part here, because you've got the doctor's got him in sick bay and all that, and he's just starting to get this artificial drug working on him. And he's under tests, and Odo's going to him, you need to stay here in sick bay with the doctor. And obviously Odo wants his own space. And the doctor goes, no, it's okay, he can go with you. And I thought, you get Odo. Looks like he could kill you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like, I don't see a problem as long as I can still monitor his signs. Yeah, well done, Bashir. Maybe Bashir just don't want him in the sick bay. Like, I'm not looking after him. You can have him. And there's this conversation where the Jem'Hadar says, like, I know that you're better than me, but I know I'm better than everybody else. It shows what's built into them. And what's interesting there is that they don't even think the Vorta are better than them. They think it literally goes, the Changelings, the Jem'Hadar. And that makes sense that the Changelings would do that, because if they ever have a problem with the Vorta, they don't want the Jem'Hadar being subservient to the Vorta. So again,
the Jem'Hadar will follow orders when the Vorta's assigned.
Yeah. But if it came down to it, exactly. So I really
we do see that later. We do see that later, don't we?
Yeah. So there's a nice sort of, almost like a sort of a mind twister kind of thing going on, because Odo says it's the sort of logic that Kirk used to use to destroy computers, because Odo says, no, I'm not better than everyone else. And the Jem'Hadar says, well, that's a bit of a paradox, because you have to be right because you're one of the founders, but I know you are better than me because you're one of the founders, so both things can't be true. But neither of them are false either. And that's what Kirk used to do, wasn't it? To make computers blow up.
Yeah, give them stupid paradoxes.
Exactly. Odo shows him a footage of Jem'Hadar fighting people. Not sure it's the greatest idea. And then he makes that fighting simulation in Quark's, and I bet Quark's charging him good money for it, you know. Or maybe I'll turn...
I don't think Quark charges Odo for things like that. Because Quark probably goes, hang about, Odo's off in a holodeck for a few hours. What can I do?
Yeah, I'll know exactly where he is, and I'll have an alarm if he comes out of it. So, yeah probably right there. It's probably on the house.
Yeah, I imagine that anytime Odo wants something from Quark like that, he goes, oh, okay, I suppose you're not going to pay me either, are you?
Yeah, I bet you're right. And we get to see sort of like the violence increasing, and I really like the choreography of the scene, because it does start out like the alien that he's fighting, the hologram, is really passive at first. He's blocking a couple of moves. He's very rarely making an offensive move. But then as the difficulty ramps up, the choreography ramps up, so he starts being a bit more aggressive, and it is like a video game where it's turn your difficulty up.
It's very reminiscent of Worf's program, isn't it?
It is, yeah, where he used to fight them weird zombie things, didn't he? They were pretty cool.
Yeah. Increased level. Yeah.
So Kira's not happy about it. Odo says he knows there's a risk, but he thinks that he can change. And obviously, Odo's doing obviously a bit of projection here. Like, he's thinking back to when he was experimented on and tested upon, and he wants to prove that he can be better. And they'll have another crack at this story when he finds the infant changeling, I think in season 5. A very sort of similar storyline there, where he's trying to do better than Dr. Mora did effectively here. But unfortunately, as he admits at the end, it's Kira that's actually right about the Jem'Hadar. Whatever programming they've got is too severe. And it all sort of kicks off at this point. Like, Cisco brings in Odo to say, I've been ordered to turn him over. And it turns out that the kid can do the Jem'Hadar cloaking thing.
Yeah.
And he's been lurking in Cisco's office, which has now got a little corridor just off of it, which I don't think we've seen before, but that's quite good if you're making an escape. And Odo's like, I'm willing to give up the rest of my life now to look after you. Let's steal a runabout and run away together and all of this stuff. Fair enough. But he just wants to go back to his people, and the confrontation's pretty good with Cisco, where he says, I'll have to tell Starfleet that I'd have had to kill him to keep him here. But that actually is the truth, so...
Yeah. And it's like Odo's said, I will take him back. And Odo's the only one who can take him back, because they won't stop Odo returning.
No, that's it. They would no doubt kill anyone else who tried to do it. And Cisco's right, that the kid would keep fighting until somebody had to shoot him if they tried to detain him. So, yeah, it's a bit of a... not a sort of anticlimax, but it is somewhat of a downbeat ending, really, because you don't...
it's like he couldn't get through to him. He couldn't reform him.
Yeah, exactly, and I think
what would have been... I think what had been really nice with this is if they could have got the actor back in a year or two later as a Jem'Hadar to be fighting them in a major way and have no problem going up against them, not hardly even recognising them, or maybe recognising them. Yeah, you're Cisco.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be really good. Yeah, and Cisco remembers him as the little kid that he had in his hands.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
It's a shame that they couldn't. I don't know why they didn't.
I seem to remember them doing it in one of the comics. But obviously, we never get it on screen. But you're right, it would have been interesting to have him as... It'd have been good if in that episode, is it Rocks and Shoals, where they're marooned on a... when the marooned and the Jem'Hadar have run out of Ketracel White. That's it, and it's just the Jem'Hadar and the Starfleet team, and it'd have been... And the injured Vorta. Yeah, to have him as the leader there, or to have him as one of the Jem'Hadar that Worf fights in the prison. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It would have been great to have brought him back, but ultimately we don't. But I think he does a good episode, so we'll let him off. Yeah, and it just shows that the Jem'Hadar are literally pre-programmed from birth to be warriors, worship the founders. Yeah, this is it. This is, pretty much all of the other Star Trek villains we've humanised at some point. Like the Klingons, to some extent, we humanised. Through Worf and Gowron. Yeah. We got to know them. We got to understand them a lot more. The Borg, only really through Hugh at this point. Obviously, and 7 of 9. 7 of 9 later on, and in Picard with the ex-Borgs and things like that. Yeah. So they have done it with the Borg. Less so with the Romulans, but yeah, this is absolutely subverting that and saying, no, the Jem'Hadar are not that. The Jem'Hadar literally... Yeah, the Jem'Hadar are what they are, and there's nothing you can do to alter that. That's it, and that makes them even scarier at this point. So, next week, then, we're looking at Inside Man, which is another Barclay one, and we'll apologise in advance for this, but we have to do it because it's incredibly important to the Dominion arc. Even if it's only mentioned very briefly in the episode, we're going to look at the notorious DS9 episode Meridian, which is not that popular, but our entire thesis of how this war starts pretty much hinges on this episode. So,
yeah,
if we've got to do it, you've got to do it. You've got to listen to it. So, we'll see you next time with that.
Yeah, but we'll enjoy it still.
Yeah, we'll have a good time with that episode. It's not a masterpiece, but we'll give you our thoughts on it next week. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, we're at RetrekPod on Twitter. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com, or you can come and join us on the Facebook group. Search for Retrek. Thanks for trekking with us this time, and we will see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.